Okay, we're going.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday, April 28th. I'm Bill Baldwin from Boulevard Realty, and I'm so happy that you could be with us here today for this market update we do each weekly Tuesday at 10 a.m. We do record these sessions, and we'll be sending it out to anyone that requests it. So I'm glad that you could be with us here today. It is week 7 of our shelter in place that really began March 15th. And much of the world and the country is ready to get back to some sort of normalcy, but we're just not there yet. I mean, in reality, we need a little more time to understand the data and the science. And as the state begins to open back up this Friday with 25% of some retail spots and stuff, we'll see, how society eases back into it. For real estate, I think we're still going to be able to function pretty much as we have for the last couple of weeks. We're able to make appointments responsibly, and we're able to show houses and conduct business and have closings. And I suspect that much of the real estate industry will continue along the same path. We won't make any changes this Friday. I don't anticipate any real changes next week. We're going to be extremely focused on your health and the health of our agents and the health of buyers and sellers. And because we can remotely work much of the way, I think we're going to continue to operate much in that same fashion. But I do think people are wanting to get back to some form of normalcy, something just to get out of the house and do a few things. So I think you're going to see real estate pick up a little bit, but it's going to be very incremental. It's for everyone that wants to maybe go to one of those restaurants. There's plenty of people that are going to hunker down and not going to be pioneers when it comes to going to the movies or going to a retail establishment or something. So cautious optimism, cautious incremental increases into real estate activities. That is what I think we're going to see here. So I've got some pretty good information again today. We'll see how I am. I'm the least technical person but I want to continue to talk about a few of these things as to where we are. And of course, it's all about numbers. You hear everyone talking about the testing and the testing and the testing. Well, of course, we want to know that sort of deal. So today we're at 5,827 cases in the greater Harris County area. I explained how to do this last week, so I'm not going to go into great detail, but I'm hoping all of you are going to Ready Harris and are clicking on this information and can delve into the numbers. It's easy, it's public information. Anyone has access to this. There's tremendous information across the state. You can click here, which I already have set up, and it tells me exactly what's going on. This is at 4 o'clock every day, they update that. So when you talk about 5,827 cases, I mean, it's a pretty broad area. And this tells me right over here to the left exactly where that is. And you can see Bel Air only has 15 confirmed cases, Bunker Hill 7. The city of Houston, these city limits that are defined over here in the orange are really only 3,500 cases. And you can see Friendswood 6, Galena Park 4, Hedgewick Village 2, Hillshire Village 0, Hunters Creek 0, Katy only 8, and you can look at the numbers. League City only 1, even though 1 is an important number, and I don't want to diminish the numbers. I just want you to be educated on what it means. 2,065 there is in the ETJ of the city, this area out in yellow that's not truly in the city limits, but 5 miles beyond the actual border there. And you can see here, Pasadena had a pretty high number, 101. As did West University Place, only 14 there. So if you look at this graph, if you took out Pasadena and you took out Baytown, which are statistically high numbers for their population, the percentage would be actually pretty low there. So this is at the same time that we continue to increase the number of tests. As we test more and more and more people, of course, you're going to get more numbers, which is good to have accuracy, but the percentage of people is actually falling. If you go back to this basic chart here, you can see on a daily basis kind of how the chart's going, and it takes it just a little while. The more slides I have up, the longer it takes. Hopefully this won't take too long, but if you just look at the chart, you can see here that what are we really looking for? We're looking for these numbers to decrease. This is that number, the city and the county combined. And if I just take the city of Houston number, you see that we are flattening to some degree. In any particular given day, on 4/23, there were only 6 new cases. On 4/24, you can click here, you know, whatever day it is. Here's on 4/22, there were 50 new cases in the city. If you go to the county, here's the numbers here. Of course, bigger county, bigger area. And this number is the total of those two. I try not to pay so much attention to the daily case count because I believe the headline's always going to be the number's going to grow as you test 5,000 a day and you go to 20,000 a day and you go to 50,000 a day. We're not anywhere near those numbers. The numbers have nowhere to go but up. So I continue to focus on these other matrix over here, which you can find just by clicking down. What is the general usage of the beds? And so here you can see we have 6,381 in a hospital, but only 386 are in general beds that are suspected or confirmed COVID-19 patients, and 243 in intensive care. That number's a little deceiving, so I generally go back to, here's ICU usage, and you can see we have capacity up here at 1,628, and the total ICU beds is 1,344. But I just showed you in the ICU, only about 500 or 600 of those are really COVID-19 patients. The other 500 or 600 are not COVID-19 patients. But you know, following this number, do we have adequate capacity to take care of the Houston and Harris County population if there were some resurgence? And I think we've clearly demonstrated that social distancing is working, and that we need these numbers to go down and down and down to 0, but that we're going to probably be in this phase for quite a while without a vaccine, without any, you know, as we start to interact a little bit more, you're going to get more and more people. If you go and look at the ventilator use, it's about the same thing. You're looking to see, this is defined pediatric use and adult use at the bottom, that the numbers, you know, are slightly ticking down, and the availability of ventilators, both for children and for adults, continues to be well below what we've needed ever, and seems to be able to have greater capacity to handle some minor surge that might come back as we go to 25%, 50%, 100%. So following these sort of numbers, if there's a spike in this ventilator use and the ICU use and the hospital bed usage, then of course we're going to have to retract back as a county. And it's what the governor said, it's what the president said, it's what the mayor and county judge continue to say. I'm sure many of you are just like me. I spend most of my afternoon watching press conferences. Yesterday, governor, county, mayor, president. I mean, and you're all just trying to track the information so that we can be a resource to you and others. So I follow this every day to see what's going on. And of course, we want more and more and more and more testing. That has to be the key to where we're at here. And they've made it easier and easier and easier for us to get these tests. If you haven't gotten a test and you want to test, you can still, they open up more and more opportunities for testing. It is free. This is the city number. There are county numbers. There are private hospitals. Legacy Health is not into this number. You can dial Legacy Health and try and get a test. This number allows you to register and go to a number of different places. Fady and I we just called Saturday afternoon at 1:15. We were there at 1:45. We were virtually the only one there. We were done with our test in a matter of minutes. There was absolutely no wait for us in the afternoons at all. I know many people have experienced a long line, and I think most people line up over there at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. And so I've just noticed from the afternoon TV reporting that there doesn't appear to be many people there in the afternoon. So one of my agents yesterday, after we talked at 10 a.m., did about the same thing. Called at 1:15, went at 2:30, was the only one in line, had the test done in a matter of minutes. So if you don't have to have a symptom, it doesn't cost you anything. Test for more accurate information is what we're going to have to do. And then that, of course, will impact our whole industry. It's going to impact the economy of our city and of our county. And so that's why I think we need to continue to focus on these sort of numbers, especially over the month of May. I mean, continuing to focus here to see as we open up, are there going to be greater number of cases, and do we have the capacity to deal with those cases? And of course, remaining as safe as possible, social distancing, mask whenever possible, avoiding large crowds. That's going to be important here. We've been focused also just kind of on general activity in real estate, which I'm quoted or I get called all the time. I had people from Corcoran Real Estate yesterday out of Nashville call me. I mean, many of these people are just wanting to know. And in general, it's better than you would think. It's not dismally dead, and it's certainly not booming, but there are lifelines that say real estate in many areas of the city is balanced, which means we're able to conduct some business without an extreme one way or the other. We're 7 weeks into it, and so I think we can kind of see what's going to be happening over here. If I look at Boulevard Realty and the number of people who are viewing our listings, whether that's on HAR, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, it wouldn't matter. If I look at this week's time frame compared to last year, remember last year's the best year in the history of real estate for the city and the county and for Boulevard Realty, we actually have more people looking at our listings today than we did a year ago, 23,431 over the last week compared to 17,000. And in reality, we actually have fewer listings. And so we're getting 292 views per listing this past week versus a year ago where we only had 172 views per listing. So certainly, I know I'm realistic. These are bored people. These are people looking for competition. They're not all buyers. The number of buyers, of course, is down, but the number of listings is down. And so that's what you're looking at, supply and demand, which I explained it very in-depth last week. But this is kind of what we're looking at. Are there some positive signs? And this, of course, is a positive sign. If you glance at the number of inventory, I'm not sure if I can move myself around here, but definitely the amount of inventory is down, which is keeping the supply in check with the demand and keeping the prices relatively stable. There hasn't been a huge rush of people trying to unload their houses because the price of oil is unsustainable or negative or way down. I mean, people have hunkered down for the most part, and the amount of inventory continues to see pretty good reduction, although I'm a realist. As we head back into reopening parts of the economy, you're going to get more and more listings pop onto the market. Hopefully what you get is more and more buyers popping onto the market. So I continue to look at these numbers, and this is why I think you need to have a good real estate agent who's, advising you about what's going on in the general market. If I look at all of MLS over the last 7 days, this is what's happened. 2,000, this is a very large area. I mean, it's hard to explain that this is, a huge number of listings, but the number of listings went up by 2,025, but the number of pending option, 1,200 got under contract in the last week, 310 went from option to pending, continue to show, or to pending, 1,654, and 1,350 houses sold, with a fair amount of number either being withdrawn, expired, terminating, many of which pop back on the market over here. So this back on the market isn't necessarily houses that fell out of the option period. They could have just had been withdrawn and gone back active, or expired or terminated and relisted, maybe with the same agency or a different agency. I try and go back and look at more specific numbers. So I take these sort of deals and I go, all right, I only really want to look at area 9, the Heights there. So what's happening in the Heights? We have been focusing in some of these reports of just looking at what is, over 500,000 in the Heights area. And like I say, you could focus just on Timber Grove or whatever. But if I look at just area 9, here's 121 new listings in the last 7 days. Here's 12 that were back on the market, some decreased, some increased. And I looked at these numbers. A couple of these increases, when I go and look at them, are probably because a house popped on the market and then it sold for more than it was listed. So here's an example of a house that probably listed for 509 and had got more than the asking price, probably closer to 516,500. So they adjusted the price to 516,500 so that the appraiser will not flag it. You know, if you're under contract for 516, and it was listed for 510, there's an extra level of scrutiny. So some agents go in and adjust the MLS higher so that the appraiser is not flagged. So that was an example of one. And here was another example where they probably listed something and the price went up. And as they went under contract, they adjusted the price upward. So prices don't just go down. Sometimes they do go up for any number of reasons. This is still in Area 9. Here were houses that got under contract this week. You can look at every one of them. I went, you know, many of them were brand new listings. Here's an example. This is a $2.1 million listing that popped on the market that got under contract, you know, this last week. I happened to glance down and look. I went on this listing appointment. Obviously, I didn't get it. But the buyer's agent has been someone who's been looking in the Heights only at oversized lots greater than 10,000 square feet, you know, of a house of this, around 2.1, 2 million. They've looked at every one of my listings. She calls every agent about what you might have been coming back on the market. They're relocating from River Oaks and downsizing to a $2 million house in the Heights. And that's what they choose to do. They had been in the market before COVID-19, had nothing to do with it. Not selling their house first. But these are just different houses that popped on the market. Here's Carlos Cisneros' house. They started out, honestly, we all thought they started too high. They lowered the price fairly significant and got under contract relatively quickly. Just a couple of days after lowering the price to a more realistic price point. It's not that it's a great piece of land, but it's a artistic and architecturally interesting house, but it wasn't for everyone. But it got under contract this week, as did a number of houses. So here's the 25 houses in Area 9 that got under contract. Here's that got pending. Here's 55 that are pending. Here's 50 that closed in the last week. So if I take the new ones, 121, and I subtract out those that got under contract OP, pending, sold, and sold, and if I definitely add the withdrawn and the expired, for every new listing that came on, 2 listings went away. We're not increasing the inventory. The inventory was already tight before we started down this path of COVID-19. And this is what keeps the basic price point in check. In Area 9, and any of these price points, 500, 700, $1 million, if I look at what's selling to the price of what they're getting, it was 535, they took 533. It was 550, they took 554. It was 909, they took 910. It was 419, they took 413. It was 835, they took 838. Listen to what I'm saying. Here's the numbers. Here's the facts. There's none of this $100,000 less, $200,000 less in these examples. This is what closed in the last week in the area 1 mile from my office. At every price point, it stayed relatively firm. I mean, it's not insane. It's a buyer's market. I want to be clear. These sellers need to negotiate. They must price these houses accordingly, less than they would have priced them if there had not been a pandemic. You're going to need to be way more negotiable with repairs. But if you're in the market looking at houses, you want to buy a house. You're not necessarily scared of the economy or the oil impact. I mean, you need a house and you're relatively confident that you're going to have a job or the income or the ability to buy a house, or don't get into the marketplace. If your house is listed, you obviously want to sell your house. You probably had it listed or were thinking about listing way before the pandemic started. And so you're moving for a reason, overseas, retiring, downsizing, moving closer to work or family members or something. So I'm not seeing in the urban core, in the single family residence, a huge reduction, more of a reduction. You don't have the same sort of bidding wars that you would have had, but it appears to be a pretty good time to buy in that you have less competition of buyers, and it's still a reasonable time to sell if you have a really nice house that's priced accordingly. And I can do the same thing. I mean, I do it several times a week. I can go to area 16 in Montrose and do the exact same thing. I go to Memorial, I can go to any of these areas and look, and this is what you need your real estate agent to do on a pretty regular basis and say, okay, what's going on in Montrose? Here's the exact same mantra of what's happening. I mean, you're not getting a significant number of new listings when if you're adding 30 and 12, 7, 19, 26, 36, 39, and then you go 44, 49, 59, 63 went away and 30 were added. 30 new listings and 63 went away. It's supply and demand. So you're going to, and I think other people are going to figure this out. I mean, it's not like I'm the smartest guy on earth. Anyone can look at these numbers. Now, Cinco Ranch, Energy Corridor, different story. Back of the Woodlands, different story. Townhouse market, totally different story. Unremodeled houses, people do not want a project. If they are working, if they have money, if they have job security, they're not going to take off a lot to meet a plumber and an electrician and a painter and a countertop person. I mean, they don't want to do that. They have money. They have more money than they have time. And they're not going to want a project. This is why we've been begging sellers and people who are thinking about selling, take this time to go do the projects to put your house in the best light. So, I mean, I want to continue to stress that we will focus on supply and demand, inventory, list price to sales price, pricing a realistic number. Those are all things that I think are extremely important here as we monitor this market. There are a couple of things that I think are coming onto the toolbox at HAR, and I want to applaud them for being continually relevant and doing things, whatever they can, to try and help the real estate industry and basically their subscribers to the MLS to be as relevant as possible. There are going to be 2 new statuses in the multiple listing service that will impact kind of what is going to happen in the future. We've had coming soons for a long time. Many real estate agents use coming soon in order to get clients. I mean, that's been the basic premise. Why a seller would particularly think coming soon that would rely on a next door neighbor or, Beatty, will you get this? Or just someone driving by in order to come by and to see your house that it's available is pretty unrealistic today when there are 50,000 people an hour looking at HAR.com. So you would want the most exposure possible. And don't think any realtor can tell you an exact price. If a realtor advises you it's worth $500,000 and he brings an offer, or she, for $500,000, don't take it. Put it on the market and see what the market will yield, because you just don't know. There are too many variables. And so at Boulevard Realty, we have a policy. We must have houses on the market for 72 hours. We don't even let the sellers take the first offer in the first minute, because if someone's willing to pay $510, maybe someone else is willing to pay $520. You need to let the market know that it's out there, because there are consumers willing to buy it. So coming soon is designed for houses that are not yet ready to be shown, okay, not yet ready to be shown, but that are going to be available relatively soon. 14 days or less is a reasonable coming soon. If you have a coming soon sign in the yard, which is telling the world that it's available, you must put it on the multiple listing service within 1 day. And it can be under a new status after May 1 of coming soon, so that the realtor industry can look up and say, yes, this house at 795 Omar is going to be available. It looks like it's going to be available May 7th. They're painting right now. It's going to be $600,000, and we can start showing it on May 7th. You're not allowed, the real estate agents, the sellers, no one's allowed to show this coming soon listing if a sign is in the yard and if it's marketed to the public on Nextdoor, anywhere else. If you have a non-MLS listing, which means you have a listing that is not on the multiple listing service, your agent can show that listing and can share that listing only with their own firm. They can't share that listing. They can't e-blast out those houses because it's called fair, clear cooperation. And so if you're marketing to the world, we need to let the world see it. And so there are non-MLS listings. There are these coming soons, which now if you come soon, put a sign in the yard, within 1 day, put it on the MLS. Can't be coming soon for more than 14 days. Otherwise, the status would go to withdrawn, so that the real estate industry can look up the coming soons and tell the consumer, this is the price point, this is when it's coming available. So that's designed to get the listing the most visibility, especially to all the realtor community, so that people will understand that something's coming soon and that we can show to the most amount of people. We are creating a new deal. We used to have these non-MLSs where you could broadcast it to the world, and you're selling President Bush's house and you don't want it on the multiple listing service for everyone to see it, but you want to be able to tell the world about it. This is this new status, private per seller. This is, I'm selling JJ Watt's house. He doesn't want all his neighbors to know what price point he's selling his house for and doesn't want CBS News to report from his front yard. You can put it in private per seller, which is a limited amount of information that an agent can broadcast to the world, especially to the realtor community, to say, I have a home, $1 million with a master down, 4,000 square feet, zoned to Travis Elementary. But I don't have to put any photos and I don't have to give the address. I'm just putting it in to tell the realtor world to call me about this listing, and I'll vet it and the buyer to see if this is really what you're looking for. So you put limited amount of information. This private per seller feature on the multiple listing service will go active soon. That we don't have a firm date. I suspect around the middle of May. If coming soon is totally organized by May 1, so we're talking about Friday, this status in the MLS, active, option period, pending, continue to show, pending, or coming soon. Coming soon means we're not showing it yet, but it's going to be available soon, and we want to tell the real estate world about it. So that's going to be available on Friday, May 1st. Private per seller, which many people are going to want to use, especially if they don't want the days on the market to count against them. We're going to start seeing more private per seller, and it still puts the information out there so that your realtor can be looking for these sort of things to provide information to the consumer. So these are brand new features that are new and going to be misunderstood for quite a while here, but I just want to make people available of them. And then we have certainly you've been seeing since the pandemic the number of virtual tours and their virtual realities where you can manipulate the screen and you can kind of scroll through the house. And we've had virtual tours well before the pandemic. I mean, these Matterport sort of 3D tours had been already very popular. We've added a new feature, which are basically virtual open houses. Remember, still today, open houses are really fairly frowned upon. It's not that you can't do them, but I mean, society, the Houston Association of Realtors, most brokers have not wanted to have an open house and then have 10 people in a house that are potentially getting other people sick. So we've had very little open houses and have not been able to publicly advertise open houses, which of course has reduced the visibility of open houses at all. What we're seeing now is, for the foreseeable future, we now have virtual open houses, which are live events, which are events which could be Thursday at noon, from noon to 12:15, where I'm going to go to 1618 Arlington and I'm going to be live and I'm going to be touring the house and be available to answer questions online or set appointments for after the virtual open house. So virtual open houses are designed to be, they're not 2-hour events like open houses Sunday from 2 to 4, because they're live and you wouldn't necessarily have enough to talk about for 2 hours. You can't just keep going round and round and round on the first and second floor. So they're short live events where a realtor builder, homeowner, anyone can go and broadcast from that house. They're advertised and made available to the public. If you subscribe, you'll get a little notice that it's, if you click on 1618 Arlington, you're interested, and then I go put on that 1618 Arlington is going to have a virtual open house Friday from 12 to 12:15, and again Saturday from 2 to 2:15, and again Sunday from 1 to 1:15, you would get a little notice when I'm live, and then you'd be able to chat with me live, and only I and you can see your question, and I can either answer those questions then or get back with you right after the event. But it is designed to be a more personalized sort of deal. What I like about 1618 Arlington, how great it is to be on that street that's wider than most, that's curbed and guttered, that's walkable to the sculpture on Heights Boulevard or the shops on 19th Street. I mean, it's interactive where people can ask questions. And I think it's going to be a nice feature where people who are still not going to want to just flock to an open house because of safety concerns, but that they can get a more personalized view of a particular home. And like I say, might be the realtor, might be a builder telling them about why they made certain selections, could even be, like I say, a homeowner telling the realtor or the consumer world what they love most about this house. So that feature is now up and going, and you're going to see more virtual open houses in the very near future. It'll be interesting to see how these things work. I think the point of the virtual open houses is to weed through for people who don't want to master down because they want to be on the same floor with their children. Well, then there's no need in going to tour that house. But if we can pique some interest and then make private appointments, you know, an hour later so that we can schedule people at 2 p.m., the next round at 2:30, the next round at 3, wear masks, sanitize the doorknobs, you know, wipe down the countertops, make sure the doors are open so that we're not touching doorknobs. I mean, I think we need to have the public safety and health of everyone foremost on our mind for quite a while here. So this is a way to showcase homes, pique people's interest, eliminate unnecessary showings, and ultimately show the home to someone who loves the home and wants to buy it for the price that the seller's willing to sell it for. So I'm very excited about virtual open houses, which are different from virtual tours. So ask your realtor about these sort of things, especially, and you'll be on the lookout for them, and bookmark a few of them if you're interested in knowing when some of these tours happen. We're going to have to practice our way through here for a little bit. Lending is still out there, and we're seeing more and more people. I mean, it's just when there's uncertainty, a number of people retract, but I mean, we've been able to close a number of these houses with jumbo loans. So there are people out there still willing to do jumbo loans. Jumbo loans are the loans that are non-conforming in Texas. That means greater than $510,000. So the interest rates that you see when they talk about low interest rates are generally conforming loans, a certain amount of down payment, and financing no more than 510. If you finance more than 510, either through a first lien of 510 and a second lien of 200,000 or 300,000, the second lien will be higher. Or if you truly get a jumbo loan of 800,000, you know, if you buying 1.5 million, putting down 500,000, financing $1 million, those interest rates are not going to be at 3% today. They're going to be higher than that because the risk and the secondary market just isn't there to absorb those loans. But they're out there. Don't hear that they're not out there. So, I mean, there's a lot of good things going on. I mean, what you're going to see, and I'm going to get out of this screen here, Aaron, and just go to me, hopefully by stopping sharing. Yes. I mean, I think you're going to see as we move back into opening up our economy, both locally and statewide and nationwide, you're going to see a little more interest in housing again. People are going to want to make a move. But it's going to be a slow, steady stream. There's not going to be a flooding of the market of inventory. I think it's a cautious opportunity for us to add more and more listings, and there'll be buyers out there. So balance is what it's all about. I think you're going to see a major focus on local, using a local realtor, using shopping local, using a trusted advisor, someone that's been there during this pandemic, been there during this time. And we're very proud that we can stay very locally focused, that we can support local businesses and local nonprofits and things in our particular neighborhoods so that they're there. I mean, they're going to struggle. The nonprofits are going to struggle. The small businesses are going to struggle. Everyone's going to have to adjust accordingly. But we're very committed to our neighborhoods across the region, Galveston, North Houston, any of these areas. We have 65 agents that are spread out throughout our communities that are entrenched into Sugar Land, Spring Branch, Cinco Ranch, the Woodlands, and we are focused on each and every one of those areas to try and offer the best advice that we can. And so we're here, we're going to continue these meetings for the next couple of weeks, and we hope we can continue to be a great resource for each and every one of you. So Aaron, if there's some questions, I'm happy to answer a couple of questions.
We do. Dana Shin asks if the coming soon will start the days on the market.
It does not start the days on the market until it becomes active. So they're tracking the 14 days on the multiple listing service, but your days are counted just like, you know, when it's withdrawn or terminated or expired or coming soon, they don't count against the days. So only till it goes active. As it's tracking the 14 days, it will flag the agent and say, your coming soon is approaching its 14th day. They should flag you 2 or 3 times before you hit to the 14th day. And then it will just go to withdrawn, so that if a consumer or an agent sees a coming soon sign, Dana, you can go in, log on to the 900 block of Omar and see that coming soon, or see that listing is either in coming soon or we've moved it over to withdrawn, so that you have information. That was part of the clear cooperation. We want you to be able to find the information, to give that information to the consumer who's interested in that house. In neither of those scenarios do the days on the market work against you. Good question.
Excellent. And we just have a comment from someone saying, as an appraiser, I suggest that it is deceiving, misleading to change a list price to fool the appraiser.
It's just reflecting the actual price. And so it's not misleading, but I mean, I'm just saying that that's often the case. I'm not defending it one way or the other. There are firms that suggest if you take an accepted contract higher than the contract price, many people have advised him, even the lenders have advised, to raise the price to reflect the actual price. But I understand your view as an appraiser that you shouldn't do that, and I respect that opinion and don't necessarily have one. We don't have a company policy that says raise it. We have, there have been many instances that the lender have asked us to adjust the price up to reflect what the market was willing to pay. And other times, if we listed something for $500,000 and there were 14 offers and you settled at $545, that is really what the market was willing to pay. So like I say, I'm a firm believer in listing many things for $1 and just see what the market will yield for it, because I think all these appraisers that want to put the price as some science. I mean, I have a listing that's selling for $1,685,000 and it needs a little bit of work. It's on the tax records for $1,750,000. We're selling it for $1,685,000. It appraised for $1,685,000, and the buyers are nervous that they're going to be upside down when they repaint it, because it costs $30,000 to repaint it. And so but I'm telling them it could have probably appraised for $1,715,000 if we had a contract for $1,715,000. There's no exact science that says it's worth exactly $1,685,000. It's a fair market value of opinion that could have been $1,715,000. And if you redo the countertops and redo the paint, you might get a new appraisal. And so I think the thinking that these mortgage appraisals are exact sciences are misleading and often lead to people questioning their decision making, when truly it should just be, it's worth what you're buying it for and it's worth what you're mortgaging it for. But those are psychological and financial decisions that have very little to do with what the market's willing to pay. Sometimes it's willing to pay more than it's worth. And believe me, there are many times the market's willing to pay much less than something is actually worth as well. But I appreciate your comment and don't disagree with your statement.
And Melissa pointed out on Facebook that the appraisers will often see the original price in the listing history.
Yeah, I mean, it's out there for everyone to see, so. Okay, happy Tuesday, everyone. Be safe out there. Continue to exercise caution. Reach out to any of us at Boulevard Realty if we can answer any of your questions, and continue to we're going to focus on the market and see just what we can do to keep relevant out there and be a resource to each and every one of you. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Have a great day.